All right. We've got a 6.7 liter Super Duty diesel F250 changing water pump. Not a bad gig. Got to take a lot of stuff out, but not a bad gig. So on the left, you'll see the bad one. On the right, you'll see a new one. That's AC Delco. I bought it on the internet for 103 bucks. Local O'Reilly was 260. So I'm thinking I might put some high temp silicone around that gasket when I go to install it. I don't know how you folks feel about that. I'd love to see your input. I've had some situations where they leak when you put them on, but never when I use high temp silicone. So I'm gonna run you through the procedures that I used to take this thing off, steps to remove and what I did. So first thing I did is to detect my leak, I used some of the stuff right here. It's a engine coolant leak detector dye. I put some in just a little bit, probably about 2 ounces into, not even that much, maybe about 1/4 of an ounce to maybe a 1/2 ounce into the engine coolant reservoir. And then I ran it for about 2 weeks just to get that fluid through. And I used a black light. I think this was made by Mastercool. And of course, your glasses to figure out where the leak is. Hate to pull something apart, especially with the labor this thing requires, and then find out that it's not the pump, it's something else. In fact, it was the pump. So, first thing you want to do is get you a 5-gallon bucket and about a hose, probably about a 5/16 hose. On the driver's side, underneath by the radiator, you'll see a valve, a drain valve. Hook your hose into it, and you'll get about 5 gallons of coolant out of it. Of course, you want to crack your lid on the coolant box, it'll go faster. That way you don't create a vacuum. Come over here on this side and do the exact same thing for the turbo cooler, which is on the passenger side. Get your hose, drain it into a bucket. So after all that part is done, of course you want to disconnect your batteries. I did positive sides on both. I just put a rag underneath those to keep them from touching. Pull out your breather box, the overflow reservoir for the turbo intake, the top radiator shroud, and of course you'll have 2 bolts on this side, you'll have 2 on that side, and then you'll have a couple of hoses and wires that are attached to it that's got the barbed fittings on it. You'll pop them out, and I always paint some cases if I'm questionable where I might go back in. I'll put little paint marks to show and mark the other one the same color, the opposing side. That way I can put it back together with ease. You'll pull your fan off, and I did document or mark the fan to the clutch. That way it goes back in the same orientation. And so when you go to pull out the actual shroud that's attached to the engine, take your bolts loose, pull that thing forward the best you can to be able to release it from the studs. And then you'll have one barb side here on the passenger side where a hose connects. Pull it out. I've marked it with yellow. And then you'll be able to spin that thing. Just, let's see here. I spun it. I think this one came out. I did it counterclockwise, I think. Yeah, counterclockwise. Turn it until this other piece right here, that bigger, thicker piece is up top, and then it'll lift right out. No big deal. And of course, take your fan, your belt off. I've got a brand new belt, so I'm not going to replace it. But if it wasn't new, I would definitely recommend it. They're about 100 bucks if you get one from a dealer. And then, of course, take your tensioner off. The idler pulley didn't have to come out, which no big deal. It's just one bolt. And then take your clutch housing off with clutch. Disconnect it. And then from there, you'll have full access to the pump. You see a lot of people taking the entire front end of the truck off. I would no way recommend that. You've got condensers, you've got a lot of stuff you got to pull out. I wouldn't do that. It's just more work. Especially if they're charging you for it, they're just going to take your money. So right there's where the water pump goes, as you can see. It's removed. And when I took it out, that's where all that coolant in the floor came from. So I'm going to let it drip for a little bit. I'll clean it up and wipe it out. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put some high temp silicone on that pump face gasket when I put it back together. I would like to have everyone's feedback as far as what they think about doing that. If you would, please leave me some comments. When you get down into the pump on the right side, you'll see a wiring harness that's attached to it. It's a bit of, and your power steering hose, one of the hoses to the power steering. It's a booger to finagle in and out, or to get into it. But I use the new pump the orientation of the bolts for reference to know where all my bolts were, and I pretty much counted them as I took them out. So you only have 2 sizes of bolts in that thing, so don't worry about getting anything crisscrossed or applesauced. So good luck to you. Easy project, easy peasy. Right now I've got probably 2 hours taking this thing apart, and I'm thinking probably another hour to get the pump cleaned up and get it on, get my floor cleaned up, and then probably 2 hours putting it back together. So if I were to guess, this is a good 5.5 hour project. Thank you much. Good luck.